Hey, everybody. This is part two of a two-part podcast with Michael Hairston, financial advisor. If you haven't listened to part one, go do that and come right back. All right, I'll see you inside. Eating and finance as young black men. No one talks about that. And I'm like, where do we even start? Because, do we even budget for dates? Like, how do we even approach that? What's your advice
Oh
there?
man, do you need to budget for dates if you're single? Absolutely, it's an expense. So it's been a long time since I've been on a date. So being dating to try to lead to a long term relationship. But here's what I would tell you: that some principles that I used back then, and I was in college when I did this stuff, which is don't live outside your means, because if you do, you give the impression that you're something that you're not, and that starts the relationship off on a bad foot. Because the significant other then will be expecting whatever you're doing now to continue when you're living outside your means, meaning that you're running up your credit card to take vacations, to go here, to go there, to go here, and then you end up getting into a longer relationship, carrying all this debt, and eventually get married, and then you've got debt that you've accumulated by, trying to woo this particular person. But once you get married or get to have a long-term relationship, that what you started will have to continue. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be mindful of what you're expending. And I would just tell you, be real with yourself, know where you are, and even where you are financially. Like, look, if all you got is, casual dining money, that's all you got. And if you don't have casual dining money, don't try to perp like you got casual dining money. Just go to the local grocery store, open up a cookbook, grab some groceries, come home and impress her with a home cooked meal, or impress them with a home cooked meal. If that's what you can do, you operate the level that you're going to do. Because again, it's about where am I trying to be financially. And the one thing I would tell people, and I tell people this, is try not to be unevenly yoked or unevenly balanced as it relates to money. So you got to have some, you may not be in the same place per se. Like my wife and I, we still have some differences about money, but at least we're in the ballpark on the same team and we're playing the same game. Sometimes I'm in left field, sometimes she's at home plate. I mean, okay, but at least we're playing the same game. We're in, and there's an opportunity to come together. Sometimes some people I talk to, they're not even in the same sport. It's like, how y'all expect to get together? And like one couple I know that they're unfortunately they're not married anymore because the husband would every dollar he get he run off and spend. And the wife was like, yo, we need to have some money. And that caused major contentions in the house. And a lot of times people get divorced over finance.
It's one of
Yeah.
the biggest
So,
reasons
and
people get divorced,
the
right?
divorce happens because you don't start out that way.
Yeah.
You don't have those conversations. For a guy who's looking, or a female that's looking to date, don't be afraid to have the conversations about finance to understand where the other person is. And if the other person shies away from it, or you just trying to be this and be that, that's an indication about where they are. And you have to make your decision whether you want to try to continue to be around that, or whether it's worth your time to go invest somewhere else.
Facts.
Uh, Mike, you're a family man, right? You have three kids, from what I've read. Um, I want to touch upon like for couples with kids, right, and how that has to relate with finances and etc. Um, Young guys like Alex and I, we'll probably have families maybe like 4 or 5 years down the line, God willing.
Down the line.
What are some
Down the
principles
line.
like you down the line, right? Like what are some principles you and your wife instilled in your children, to set them up financially, well, or things you've taught them that you can share with our audience when they have kids and etc. Or they might even have kids right now, but speaking to those people with kids already and they're looking to set them up well, and the principles you can teach your kids to
Fantastic
really
question.
start well with money
Let me
as they're coming
answer
up.
the question. Start to answer the question this way. And again, because all three of us are black. I don't care where you are in the world right now. If you look at the wealth of blacks in general relative to other races, we are so far behind, so far behind. But the reason why we're behind is because there's no discussion about finances in an in-depth way at home, at least in my belief, across the board. And when I say discussion, gentlemen, what I mean is successes and also failures. So when I grew up, we did not talk about finances in my house, and I was a middle class family. Had two parents, both of them worked jobs, but we didn't talk about finances. We didn't talk about checking savings. We didn't talk about credit cards. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. None of it. So I happened to pick up on things that I learned being at the private schools that I was at when I heard them talk about that type of stuff. So early on, I made the decision that when I have children, I want to talk to them about my experience with money, but not just my successes, but also my failures. So I do have three children, three daughters. Yeah, three daughters. Yeah. Everybody right now that's listening to this podcast, I need you to take a collective pause and pray for Mr. Michael right now because he has three daughters. Yes. Here's what'll trip you out. So like my youngest is 6.
Stress.
My next one is 11. My oldest is 28. And my 28-year-old has 2 daughters herself. So now I'm a grandfather with 2 granddaughters and then 3 daughters of my own. So what I'm doing with all of them is teaching them, even from the earliest age possible, to my oldest daughter, who's out on her own and living her life on her own, is my successes and then failures with money, and then using wherever they are in their life right now to help them understand money. So quick story, I got an 11-year-old, like I said, she has been dying to get these VR headsets. She's been dying. She's asked for it for Christmas. So daddy made a bad mistake at Christmas because I bought the wrong thing and I had to take it back. All right. So, but what she wanted was like 20 times more than what I paid for. So me and her mom was like, yeah, nah, I'm sorry, baby. Telling your child no is an important lesson. But I also encourage my child to save your money to get what you like. And the money that we had toward Christmas that didn't get you what you want, we'll apply that money toward this gift. Now, that was Christmas we had this conversation with this child. Now, what she wants is like $300. Today is February 28th. This child is $10 away from reaching her goal. She went out and she hustled for her money. So again, talking to children about your failures and successes, not being afraid to tell them no and because as parents, you always want to give your child the world, but it's okay. And you should tell them no so that they learn the value of $1 and realize that, hey, if I want something, I got to do something to get it because that's how the real world works. Correct? So if you give them an allowance, make them put it away, Absolutely. Make them put some money away, get them in the practice of building good, healthy mindset and a good, healthy attitude toward money now, so that when they get older, it's a lot easier to gravitate toward.
That's a fact. Before we move on, man, so I've heard of girl dads. You're the first grandfather girl dad we've had on the show. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to that, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Shout out to that, man.
That's what I said. You're killing this interview, man. I was saying you are killing these questions, man.
Oh, bro, thank you, man. I'm just curious.
Listen, I want you guys during this interview to ask whatever questions that you would like to ask, because again, it's about being real and giving you guys information that you can actually use. To me, it would be a disservice if I hang up this interview and not give your audience and you at least a couple things that you can use, because that's what's happened before. Number one, so that bar was already high, and I at least got to walk out and get somewhat close to that bar. But in totality, and that's my purpose. That's why I got into this business. I got into this business to educate and enlighten those people who I come in contact with regarding proper financial management techniques, so that you can be empowered to make what decisions you need to concerning your finance. So I appreciate this conversation.
Without a doubt. So what I want to know is, man, you've had so much experience over the years. If you were to go back and tell your 26, 27-year-old self all the gems you now know, what are some of like maybe give me like the top three things you want to impute upon yourself?
Oh man, that's nice. I like that. Number one, start investing early. So start. I should have invested. I should have started investing a lot earlier than when I did. A whole lot earlier than what I did. So this is what I mean. So we're talking about being 26, 27. Remember, I said I started being an entrepreneur at like 10. And by the time I was 14, I actually had three jobs, and then I was going to high school.
Yeah.
And I kept working three jobs even when I was in college. So there was money that was being brought in, but because I didn't have the financial understanding, the money didn't get used the way that it should have got used. So that's why I look back and say, man, 27 years of that 27 years, there's a good 10 years of that, maybe 12 years of that where there was some income that was made that I wish I would have invested, started investing early. Number one. Two, one thing I did do that helped me that I would tell myself to do more of at a younger age is find mentors. Find people like, who are in the career field that you want to be in or things that you want to achieve. Find those people, get close to those people, network, talk to them, and offer to be a part of their life. So it's an equal exchange, not you just coming to them and getting information from him. I didn't really start to learn the art of networking really till I was in my 30s. But at 27, I had a lot of people that I had access to, and I was doing networking totally wrong. So that's one thing I would definitely go back and tell myself to do correctly. And then the third thing that I would go back and tell myself to do, or tell myself at that particular age, is don't be afraid to dream big again and stretch toward your dreams. Remember, I started my life being an entrepreneur throughout in so many different ways. Yeah, there were little odd end jobs and things that I would pick up, but like I really filled out the information to actually have a qualified business within my respective state. I actually developed business cards. So I had a music production business and an entertainment business when I was in college. So by the time I got to college, I knew more about how to set up a business and how to run a business than the college that I was at, than they were telling me. So, and I also knew about taxes and finances before by the time I got to college. But I can't say I put all that information together to be able to really start to figure out what the place or the transition plan would be for me, because it was ingrained in my head that get an education, get a good job, and then once I got the good job, I'm supposed to hold on to that job for dear life until I retire. And that's not the case, because I worked at that job for 10 years. So I was like mid 30s when I actually left the one job. But I should have started the thought process about transition probably as soon as I got hired, which was like 26 when I got hired. I should have started started thinking, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And that's the mark of a good entrepreneur, is always thinking about what's next. What's next? Yeah, I reached this goal, but what's next? I reached that goal. So you're always moving toward that. I got a little too comfortable in the place that I was at, and I was glad that I left when I did. And in the way that I ended up leaving, I was glad it happened the way that I did. Not that I got fired, but it helped me realize that big business and personal interests oftentimes don't align. And at some point, that line is going to get drawn in the sand, and I got to decide, okay, do I want to stay engaged in big business and do what they want me to do, how they want me to do it, when they want me to do it, on the time schedule that they want me to do it? Or do I follow my heart and say, okay, this is really the right way I need to go for me, and I follow that? So those are the three things I would tell myself.
Yeah, I want to touch upon that, like, with the scarcity mindset that I think, you perhaps had early on, is just like get a job. And I think this is something like with our community as well too, like and this is why we started our rapper Go to the League playlist. And one of the lines that we actually said in that is that we were not taught to dream big, right? We were not taught to expand our like mindset to think we could become a president, we could become like the governor, we could become an owner of a big business, right? It's like there's certain things that you're just taught, like, and it's just like to hold on to it because you're afraid they're gonna take it away from you. Like, and you know, like what I mean by they, like they're gonna come. So work hard, do this, do that. But I think what we gotta do is like we gotta educate our future, the youth, that it is possible. It is, you could become a Michael Hairston. You could be a financial advisor working with pro athletes. Like some kids don't know that, right? And it's interviews like these and you talking so passionately, like mid LSAT, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna go do sports and be in that business, right? So, which leads to my next question, Michael. Right? You had the pleasure of being at the U.S. Bank, working with the pro athletes. I'm gonna throw you a curveball, right? If you did not work at the bank and you did not have that leverage to transition and having that knowledge, how would you go on to work with top 5 picks in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean
NBA? How would you
that's a
restart
great
over
question. So
if you were to do it again?
to answer that question, I got to go back to the LSAT, right? So that whole LSAT experience, it just got my mind open, and I really went to go search and seek and see where I need to position myself. So if I didn't get the opportunity at the bank, and I was dating my wife at the point, but I was faced with the decision of, do I stay in Ohio or do I up and I leave and I go to, there was 2 universities that I was looking at that were in New York, one in northern New York and the other one actually in New York City. I was actually contemplating hard about going up and getting a master's degree in both of those programs, which actually have placement, and they can place me where I wanted to be. So that was my next move. So sometimes, I was blessed with the opportunity that came about through my network. So what I would tell someone else who's searching and trying to figure out what their next, like, this is what I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. Look around in your network. I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You're six people away from meeting whoever it is that you want to meet. And now because of the pandemic and technology, you're probably only 2. So if you tell one person, that person probably knows somebody else that can probably then get you to whoever it is that you want to talk to. So that's number one. Use your network and be unashamed about what it is that you wish to pursue. If people don't accept that, kick the dust off your feet and move on. Because I can tell you, when I first started this business, it wasn't like my parents and I were seeing eye to eye about this particular career choice that I was about to make. What made them comfortable was the fact that I was working at a bank. So I think in their mind, they thought I was still going to be like a teller at a bank or something like that. Or I don't know what they thought. But they sure didn't think it turned into what it turned into. So that's number one. Use your network. And then the other thing I would tell you is, do your due diligence, do your homework. Your network sometimes can fail you. And that has happened to me. And you want to get information from them, but you also need to do your own due diligence and see what other opportunities are out there. And don't be afraid to move. So in the sports industry, what I would tell you is that the sports business, 2 hidden facts within the sports business. There's a lot of sports opportunity that exist everywhere. So you could work for a sports team. You could work for another financial institution that's doing lending for or running financial transactions for sports franchises. So you can get into human resources, marketing. There's a whole lot of opportunities within sports, but it's a small world. A lot of people trying to get in. The salaries is not great because they know a lot of people are trying to get in. And sometimes to be able to maneuver that career, maneuver your career to where you want it to, is going to mean that you move around from place to place to sometimes take lateral movements if you want to be that particular guy who's chasing a career within sports. You got to be okay with moving because you got to go where the opportunities are.
That's tough. One thing you said earlier is that you were networking wrong. Like, what were you doing wrong?
One-directional networking. So I'm coming to you and I'm asking you, hey, let me pick your brain, which is the classic line I've grown to detest, but I started out with that.
I hate that.
Yeah. But it took me a while to figure that out. And there was a book I read that actually how to network for those who hate networking. It was singing my language. So, because as a financial advisor and a wealth manager, I get paid to talk to people, but I'm not necessarily one to kind of get out and just bang the table talking to people. So I had to learn to network the right way. And networking the right way is understanding my story, understanding who I am, not try to be anything different than who I am, and then look to connect with people who can appreciate me and who I am, and then look to find out how I can bring value to them in what they do, and then keep the relationship going. So sometimes you go to somebody and want to pick their brain, so you pick their brain, you come to pick out of their garden, you don't deposit anything, but you leave. So you leave with the fruit and they got a bare garden. That's not a relationship. That's not how that's supposed to work. Networking is about building relationships with people. How can I invest in you? Then you invest in me, and together we grow. That's what I was doing wrong the first time. I was robbing people of their gardens and stealing fruit left and right, but wasn't making any deposits. And believe you me, that will catch up with you if that's your way of networking, because eventually your cupboard will get bare, and because people won't want to fool with you.
Yeah, reputation. People talk.
That's a fact.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially in the sports world, because the sports world is small. So if people realize that you're that guy, because no one wants to be that guy, but if they realize that you're that guy or you're that person, they don't really want, that doesn't take long to figure that out, and then they won't want to fool with you.
From then on. I feel like I'd be making a mistake if I didn't ask you and get into your business. What's your revenue model? How do you get paid?
Nah, it's not. Hey, I'm glad that you asked that question, because before we leave, I got a question I want to ask you guys too, just to kind of test your knowledge. So, because it's supposed to be direction,
definitely.
right? So, can I ask y'all a question too?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Please.
your comment to me is, how do I get paid? Well, because I'm an independent investment advisor, there's a lot of ways that I can get paid. But the one thing about how my payment structure is negotiated with the client, and it's fully transparent, so you know exactly what it is. So generally speaking, I either will charge some percentage for managing money that you make me responsible for managing for you, or I can do what I call a flat fee, some type of flat fee for providing financial services for you. But either of the models, there's generally one of these two models that most people end up engaging in. So it's either going to be a flat fee for the services that I provide, or it's going to be some percentage of assets that I manage for you, and it's fully transparent. We negotiate what that is. I'll have you sign a form. I'll sign a form saying this is exactly what it is, and when you pull up your statement, you'll see exactly what it is. Or if I have to invoice you, you know exactly what it is. So it's fully transparent.
Were you gonna ask us a question? I was gonna ask you something.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I can come back to you. Go ahead.
Yeah. You managing all these pro athletes' money. These are like millions of dollars you're managing. First, when you started, do you feel the pressure of like, wow, I'm managing this amount of like millions of dollars? And does that fear? Do you ever get like a fear of failure, of like something going wrong and you lose your client's money? How do you balance your own psyche of perhaps making them losses?
When I first got into the business, I was so green and so dumb. Like, that thought process never crossed my mind. I don't know. You know what? Yeah. And I have to even take it a step further, just to be real. I was probably so arrogant, I didn't even think about it. Just like,
That's real.
I didn't think that way. It's just like, it's either sink or swim. So in this case, I got to swim, because I don't want to go back to tell my parents like, hey, I got fired because we told you shouldn't. Nah, so I didn't think that way. So as I've gone over the years, my thought process has not been about the rate of return that I make for my clients. It's just been more about, okay, are we achieving what my clients' objectives are? That's the big thing for me. I can't speak for other financial advisors have other metrics that they kick out and that they want people to gravitate to them. For me, it's about, are we progressing and meeting your goal, whatever that might be? And is the portfolio growing at a pace to meet your goal, whatever that might be? So let me illustrate it this way. So I'm believing and trusting the plan that we put together. And if the plan that we put together for you to reach whatever your objective is calls for an investment portfolio that generates a 6% rate of return, I'm doing everything I can to meet and exceed that. But here's the trick for you. Here's an eye-opener for you guys. A lot of people don't have that type of conversation to understand, okay, what type of rate of return do I need to make in order to not only how much money I need to save to make my goal work, but how much of a rate of return minimum rate of return do I need to make on this money in order for my plan to stay afloat? So I break down both those components with my client, and I help them understand, okay, to reach a 6% rate of return, if that's indeed what your plan calls for, this is the type of investment portfolio we need to have to be able to do that. And when I say what type of portfolio you need to have, like big buckets, big ideas, like so much in stocks, so much in bonds, so much here, so much here. I believe in asset allocation and spreading your money across different places, but you need to have a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, so that you can reach that rate of return. So, if we do that, history tells me that you will be highly successful at meeting your long-term goals. Now, the emphasis on long-term, because I do run across people who, and I want to speak about this really quickly, if you're looking to invest to earn a quick buck, the risk level, you potentially might, but the risk level is so high, you could potentially lose more than what you are looking to gain. So if you're going to invest, go to invest with a long-term perspective, at least a minimum of 24 months. Like, I'm not going to use this money for 2 years, preferably longer than that, to give yourself time, because history shows us that the longer you stay invested, the higher chance of success that you will have over the long term versus trying to do this over a short period of time.
That's okay. What was the question you had for us?
Certainly.
Yeah, so here's the question I got for you guys. Y'all some smart brothers. And I want to know from you, to you, what makes a successful investor?
It's a great question.
What makes a successful investor? To me, what makes a successful investor is someone who is prudent in their investments, right? They don't really sway with hearsay. For example, GameStop is one thing that happened recently.
Oh, you're going to go there, huh?
I mean, look, right? It's like one of those, like, you go with the market, you can just go in for the quick buck, but if you're a good investor, like, you never skip the work, right? No matter what investment it is, right? It's like, if you don't know, like, you don't invest in stuff you don't understand it. Like, some companies might like look great, but if you don't know what the business does, how they make money, what their plans are, if you don't know how to read the fundamentals properly to really have an analysis at the end that this is a solid investment, then stay away from it, right? That's what my thoughts are. Is like, a great investor does the homework, goes through a series of steps, and then they have an answer whether this is a good investment or not. And they invest in businesses that actually have a long-term future that could be here after 10 years. That this is not something that you're investing in like an angel or whatever. That's like risky money. But if you invest in stock market, invest in stuff that's going to be here long term, and don't invest money that you're not willing to lose. Always invest to like make more money. Don't YOLO it and expect something. So that's my take.
It was level 4 answer over here. You know what I'm saying? I'm in line with what Owen's saying. I think making return at the end of the day. I'm not romantic about it. If you're making more money than you are investing at a consistent rate, I believe you're successful. And it can bring that home to actually invest in other things. I think you're successful. But I like what Owen's saying. Maintaining your ethics of this is the practice that I'm sticking to and sticking to that, I think is great. I'd love to get your take on that as well, and then following that, your take on GameStop. To put a bow on it.
You know what? Like I said, your brothers are smart. Owen and Alex, I love your answers because each of your answers were correct. What I try to tell people, and just to share with your audience, look, investing's been around for thousands of years. And right now there's almost 2 trillion people in the world. Everybody's going to have a different goal in place. So that means your investment strategy is going to be different, and there's going to be 2 trillion different investment strategies. So there's not one cookie cutter way to kind of do it. Alex, Owen, to your point, which is having some type of methodology that's personal to you, is what I want everybody to understand and how important that is. Don't sit down and talk to somebody who even is qualified or unqualified, especially if they're not qualified, but don't talk to anybody about investing if you don't have a goal or idea about what it is that you want to accomplish. Figure out what's important to you and stick to that. Because when you don't stick to that, that's where you can get in trouble. That's where you go chasing opportunities that eventually could cause you to lose more than what you're willing to. And Owen, that's the key point that you raised. I want to rehash, which is that don't invest more money than what you're willing to lose. You got to have, again, good core financial discipline, and you got to know yourself. You got to know if you're a risky person or not. Because if you're not a risky person, that's going to basically limit your investment options, because you're not a risky person. So therefore, you can't take a whole lot of risk. And I also like how you Owen, identified investment options. I'm looking for something that's making money, that's got a long track record, that I can see and understand their business model, and that's investment worthy. And Alex, to your point about making money, that's the whole goal about investing. You're not investing you're not investing money to lose money. I mean, right now, if you put money into a money market account, and today you put $100,000 into a money market account, you might get a 0.5% for the whole entire year on that $100,000 that you have at a bank money market. If you're a non-risky person, you need that money right away, that's probably the best place for it. But imagine if you let that money sit in the money market for 5 years, earning only a 0.5%. Inflation alone you would have lost out just by inflation alone. But you're looking to make a return on your money. Now, where can I make the best return on this money that meets my profile, that meets what I'm interested in doing? And then I can do that and know that I can make a sustained rate of return on that money, and that meets my risk profile. That's how you become a successful investor.
No, that's big. That's big.
Amazing, man.
That's not me. You brothers answered that question. That's why I wanted to ask you guys that, because, we didn't have to go into specific investment ideas, but it's about building the foundation. And what you just shared, and collectively with a little bit of input from me, provides the audience with how to build a foundation. Because if you can build that foundation, that makes your conversation with a financial professional that much more rich and empowered. And really, you can tell at that point, when you have that conversation with a financial professional, who's trying to sell you the latest idea versus who's trying to really get behind you and help you.
Yeah, you can tell the real from the fake by certain answers they give you, like how they're moving, right? You're like, if you're going to answer me like that, I know like you're going to be, fluctuating with your decisions, and you're going to make the wrong decisions, which is going to cost me, and it's going to cost you as well too, right? So
now back to GameStop. So if I could real quick. So this is part of chasing the hot dollar. So right now there is a lot of, I want to be condensed as I try to explain this. So what we have with GameStop, and what I see with GameStop, is basically a lot of people who are in the financial world who know how to read what I call the tea leaves and understand what big institutions are doing to make money, and trying to get that information down to the rest of us, which actually that's fantastic. Because at the end of the day, there's an article I just read that the ownership of stocks is mainly controlled by the top 1/3 of earners in the world.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that's causing a lot of the market movements that take place, and a lot of the profit that's being generated is because of the movements that they're making. So if you can understand what the top third, particularly if you can understand what the top 1% is doing, then man, you put yourself in a good position. That's why everybody wants to hear what Warren Buffett is doing from an investment standpoint, because you want to follow what he's doing, because he's making the serious moves. So what you have now is, because of technology, and you have these individuals who are able to read the tea leaves, they're sharing that information with everyone else, which I don't have a problem with. As long as these individuals who are sharing the information, they're regulated, and they follow the same regulation that I've got to follow. And then also on top of it, they provide backup for the research that they've done, so individuals can read that research and do their research on their own. What I have a problem with GameStop is that there were a couple individuals who were not regulated, who took that information, and when I say not regulated, they're not licensed professionals. They're not registered with the Security Exchange Commission here in the States, or with, they're not registered at all as an investment professional. They just happen to make a little bit of money, a lot of money, behind what they did with GameStop, and they told the rest of the world. So now, All three of us are smart. If somebody told you, hey, I took $100,000 and I turned it into $10 million, I got it. Y'all be real. Y'all gonna see what this person talking about, right?
Yeah. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? What'd
Right.
you do to make that happen, right? Well, I'm
You're
gonna
gonna be
be
curious.
curious.
And candidly, if you had $100,000, you might take 10,000, 15, 20,000, a little bit to try to test it out and see if it works without you doing all the necessary research. But just to try it, because if it worked for this guy particularly, it might work for me if I do the same thing. That's where you get into trouble. And that's why GameStop has just been all over the place, because a lot of people who have been buying and selling of the stock or buying and selling of the options of that stock, a lot of people have lost out money and a lot of people have made money. So what I need people to understand is, in investing, it's a transaction. It's buying and selling. So if I sell you something, I may be selling it so I can make money, but you might be buying it, but you might be buying it at a price that's high, and I'm getting out, but you're getting in, and then the price drops. So now you lost money, but I haven't, because I made it because I sold it to you.
Yeah. One thing I did like that with the whole GameStop debacle is that it really like actually showed the little guy is actually as smart as like these hedge funds and analysts, right? If a group of people on Reddit can do the research and show, wow, like these guys are actually squeezing the hell out of this, like shorting it, and we can expose them and all of us gang up together. It's the same thing that they're doing with all these idea lunches and dinners that they have behind closed doors to really move the market forward to their advantage. It's just now they were the on the losing end for once, and they went on like a big fit and complaining, going to the news networks, getting to manipulate the market by getting people to sell the stock so they can have some breathing room. So I really like how that really exposed them, and I think what they need to do next is actually have transparency behind everything. I think for the market to really be to go to the next level and actually everybody to win, transparency from the hedge funds and everybody needs to be out in the open.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's a lot of what you just mentioned as far as transparency. That's huge in the financial industry. And the lack of transparency, and the not lack of transparency, I'll just use that definition. The lack of transparency is what really has caused a lot of people not to get engaged in the financial world up until we've had the spurt in technology, which then essentially puts the power in the hands of you to be able to make investment decisions. Because before, 5 years ago, you being able to buy stock from your phone, that didn't exist 5 years ago. If you wanted to buy stock or invest, you had to open up an investment account, which more than likely means you had to talk to somebody, which, you don't know where their agenda is and yours. And, so, I don't want to go through that. So I'll just keep my money. Like, that's a lot what was going on. But over the last few years, and particularly during the pandemic, when the market technically should have crashed and stayed at a bear market level, because all the statistics show that the US economy, the world economy, is just not growing because we got a global pandemic, the market still ended up the year almost up 20%. The S&P 500 was up 23%. The Dow Jones was up 10%. That's uncrazy. That's never happened in history. And that should not have history. Why did it happen? Because people had a way to be able to invest and get access to things that they feel are core to who they are, and they're able to do it at the pace and speed that they want to. That has to continue. And as long as that continues, the market will continue to keep rising. And, there'll be some bumps along the way. This whole thing with Reddit and Robinhood and et cetera, it's just a bump on the road. But we'll all learn from it and understand, okay, what we need to do better. And for our conversation, and what I would tell anybody, I don't care if you're buying, you know, covered calls, naked puts. I don't care what you're doing from a short strategy or option strategy. Just make sure that you're not putting yourself out there and risking more than what you can afford to risk. So one of the fundamental things I tell people is, like, if you're going to invest, make sure that you have enough to cover your lifestyle for a 6 to 12 month period at a minimum. An emergency fund. That's necessary anyway, because if you lose your job, what you did during this pandemic, where are you going to get access to cash from? So you got to have an emergency fund. So have 6 to 12 months worth of expenditures that's there as a backup. And then anything above that, if you go to invest, be prudent about what you invest in. If you got that risk level to where you just want to swing for the fences and go at it, cool, but don't invest more than what you can lose. Sometimes you can win. Sometimes you will lose, and you just got to be okay with that. That's why you need to make sure that you're only investing what you can afford to lose.
That's a fact. Only invest what you can afford to lose. Man, as you work towards wrapping up, man, is there anything that we didn't cover? What else is going on with you?
There's one comment, there's one concept I would like to broach with you guys and for everyone is the importance of net worth. We talk a lot about investing, but we don't talk about the concept of net worth enough, in my opinion. Net worth is nothing more than you list all your assets on a spreadsheet or, whiteboard, wherever you want. You list all your assets. Everything that you own, that's an asset. An asset is anything that can appreciate in value or has appreciation of potential. You list out all your assets, then you list out all your liabilities. These are all the things that require you to make a payment for or that are a drain on your assets, right? And then the difference between your assets minus your liability is your net worth. Now, it sounds like a fundamental concept, but let me tell you how this really works in the financial world. Your net worth and your credit are probably the two biggest signal as to how you are as a person and how you handle your money. And right now, as African Americans, well, blacks, African Americans, when you look at our overall net worth, we are severely lacking relative to our other counterparts. Here in the United States, the average net worth for blacks is about $10,000. The average net worth for whites, $150,000, $160,000. That's a huge difference. And what I'm finding when I'm talking to people is that the concept of net worth has not really been broached as much as it should be. So investing is a way to grow your net worth because it is an asset, and that's investing in financial markets. Having a bona fide business that's growing is a way to grow your assets. But another way is another way to grow your assets and then grow your net worth. Another way to grow your net worth is the reduction of liabilities. So how can you get your assets? And this is what I tell people from a net worth perspective. What you want to do is have your assets be strong enough and be able to provide enough income to pay for your liabilities. That's when you know you're in a good position from a net worth standpoint. Can all your assets generate enough income to pay your liabilities? That's something that we all should strive for because that means our net worth has very, very good strength to it.
Yeah, and also people want to check up your net worth. I know we spoke about Mint earlier. Mint actually has a feature where you can actually input all your assets and automatically calculates your liabilities with your cash, your investments, credit, and then it just calculates it after. So great tool there. You can also check out your net worth, and it does it automatically every single day. As long as all those assets stay the same, you always get an accurate.
That's one reason why I love the
now.
Mint app, because it does so much rather than just looking at your cash flow, but it gives you a total financial picture. And anybody who wants to grow their wealth, you got to know what that picture looks like. Not be scared of it, even if there are deficiencies and challenges. Understand what they are, and then work your way, work a plan to get you out of the challenges that you have, and seize that opportunity. Because, listen, Jeff Bezos built Amazon from a garage. He basically had a high-priced garage sale. That's basically what he did. And then look what he turned it into. Every great idea that you can think of started small at some point. They just seized the opportunity. So if you want to achieve whatever your dream is on the financial end, you're going to have to start small, but you got to take advantage of, look at the challenges, spot the opportunities, seize those opportunities and take advantage of them day in and day out. And looking at where you are constantly can help you and keep you on track.
Big gems.
Speaking of Mint,
Yeah,
we should actually
this
just get a
podcast is
Mint,
brought to you by.
by
That's
Mint.
a fact.
It fits well into the nature of the show, right? We should reach out to Mint.
We shall. We got
ask
it.
for
Yeah,
those
you should. You
sponsorships.
should. You definitely should. So my fault for bringing it to you, but I do believe that that's one of the unique tools that makes things as clear as possible. So if Mint won't give you a check, y'all holler back at me. I'll write y'all a check for giving that Mint sponsorship to you.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Where can people find you?
Thanks, Michael.
Well, there you can Fine. If you're big on LinkedIn, I'm out there. Michael G. Hairston, Hairston MBA. You can find me on LinkedIn. Twitter is at Hairston_Mike. And then obviously the company that I'm with is called Alpha Financial. And you can find us www.alphafinancial.com. It's a team of 5 of us. So you look around to all the pictures of all the people who's a part of our team, you'll see my ugly mug. So that's where I am. So, but I'm available. My work email, if you choose to give me you got a question, information is free for me. So, if you got a question and want to know something, I'm more than happy to answer that. So either hit me at one of the social media sites that I just mentioned and send me a DM, or you can email me at michael@alphafinancial.com.
Boom, boom.
By the way, Mike, I want to add this to the pod just to has people ever asked you sound like the Allstate guy? Have people ever tell you that?
Yes, I have been told that. I have been told that, and
Yeah.
that's with a certain group of friends. That's my nickname, the Allstate guy.
Oh, yeah?
They like, hey, what's up, Allstate?
Allstate guy.
Y'all know me. Y'all gonna do me like that?
Oh, that's definitely with some athletes. That's definitely how they holler
Yeah.
at you. Like, what up, Allstate? Yeah, that's a fact. All right,
that's
man.
funny.
Oh, all right. Last
Allstate.
question. I'll end it on something that's hilarious. What's one thing or one purchase come across your desk that's like, what? Like, that's someone that has purchased. I was just like, what the heck? Why? How? Why would you even purchase that?
Oh man.
Oh shoot, it's gonna be good. What you got?
Listen, I had a client of mine who was a brother, and wasn't very good at swimming. I knew that. Everybody knows that. He wasn't very good at swimming. He was a lineman, so he's a big dude. But he went out and he bought himself a yacht. Yeah, got a contract extension, bought a yacht. I was like, say, sir, you bought a yacht? Yeah, man, I really wanted a yacht. Okay. Who's gonna drive it? When I bought it, they said I had to pay for the pilot to come maneuver and take us out. Is that just one pilot that's got to take you, or is that a crew? It's a crew. How much gas goes into that thing? So when we started going through and kind of walking through, which seemed like a purchase that he made to keep up with the Joneses in the market that he was in, because he was trying to network with a group of multi-millionaires and billionaires, and he was trying to network with that group. So he bought the yacht to be able to network with that group and make it seem as if he is on the same level. And he didn't keep that yacht very long. In fact, he ended up gifting it to charity for a tax break. Which I'm still trying to figure that one out. Brother. It's like, How do you gift a yacht?
And you can rent yachts, can't you?
You gotta rent
he
one,
ended up
bro.
gifting it for tax purposes. But I think that by far might have been the craziest thing that I've seen somebody buy. And I've seen some guys invest in crazy business deals. But as far as purchase, yeah, the yacht definitely has got to qualify as the craziest.
That's awesome, man. That's hilarious. All right, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That ends the podcast. The hustle is what you can control. So control your grind and control your life. I'm Alex.
I'm Owen.
I'm Michael.
And that's Hustle Over Everything.
Yeah.
Peace. Thank you so much for listening. The conversation continues on our Instagram at 247hustler. We post very frequently. And be sure to check out our merch at hustleovereverything.co. We have some amazing sweaters, hats, mugs, and a lot more. Lastly, our Proud to Pay program is linked in the description below. Thank you so much for your support. Talk to you next Monday. Peace.